welcome to the Aragon Analytics review of the Zero Tolerance 0452CF. The knife is made in the USA, and it was designed by a custom knife designer, Dmitry Sinkovich. We'll start with some of the mundane hard number stuff. It is a USA made knife. It's manual open with a KVT ball bearing system. It is a frame lock. The blade steel is S35VN with a stone washed and satin finish. Has a carbon fiber scale on one side, titanium on the other. Blade length is 4.1 inches and the closed length is 5.2 inches with an overall length of 9.3 inches. You're going a weight of 4.6 ounces. The reason I was interested in this particular knife, I've been looking for a while for a replacement for my tactical, for lack of a better word, or self-defense blade, which is a Spyderco Tatanka, which I've been carrying for quite some time and I'm quite happy with. But I did want to experiment with some different blade styles, designs, steels, and I wanted to find an American-made product if possible. As shipped, the box it comes in is fairly nice. Go bold, and it's a real beast, etc. Just some basic literature on the inside, not anything really worth noting. What is worth noting is how gorgeous this knife is. It is really pocket jewelry, or just very easy on the eyes. You have this really nice carbon fiber. The titanium scale includes the integral lock. The blade shape itself is very appealing to me. It's not overly engineered. It's a somewhat traditional blade design, but it does have this nice swedge on the top. Kind of gives it a more high-tech appearance to go along with the hardware, which, by the way, is thankfully not proprietary like you would find on Microtech type knives. You know, you have to get a special tool that costs probably more than this knife to tighten those fasteners. These are actually, can't remember the exact size Torx, but they are the mini Torx bit type fasteners here. And as you can see, it is set up for either left or right hand side. I'm sorry, left or right hand tip up carry only, which was a bit of a strike against it. I'm not really a fan of tip up carry. I just feel that there is a possibility for the knife to partially deploy while it's in your pocket, and then as you go in to reach for it, you know, if it partially deploys while it's in your front pocket and it's tipped down, odds are that you'll just end up closing the knife. I carry in my back pocket because I frequently, part of my EDC system is to carry a subcompact pistol in my front pocket. So all that real estate's taken up with the pistol. You can't put anything else in that pocket. So I was a little reluctant to go with the you know, tip up only option here. But other parts of the knife were just too compelling to pass up. One of the interesting things for me was the S35 VN steel. It's one of the crucible particle metallurgy steels. To make a long story short, it affords really uniform like grain structure. In theory, it produces a more homogeneous blade with more strength and toughness, and you know, allows you to put a fair degree of hardness in the blade as well. The blade itself has performed well. We'll get into that in a minute. The other thing that kind of interested me was the way you deploy the blade, which is this little horn up here, flipper tab, whatever you want to call it. And everything that I've read and seen about this knife was true. It really, regardless of the angle you hold the knife, it deploys extremely well. I could do with a bit more jimping up here. Being in a hot climate where I live, I could see where possibly having a sweaty or otherwise wet hand could lead to some missed deployments. But generally speaking, especially if there's just the slightest wrist flick, it comes out. And the lockup on the knife is, it might be the sturdiest that I've ever felt. It is, to use the overused cliche, it is bank vault tight. Zero up and down, zero side to side. And even after carrying the knife for a while, usually I'll take the pivot screws out and Loctite them and Loctite everything to beat all hell. This knife has stayed just rock solid in every way without any kind of adjustment. I've been carrying it for a little while, maybe a little over a month. Haven't put it through any hard use testing, but you know, it's not really designed as a hard use. It's more of a self-defense knife. You know, just look at the blade shape. It's obviously designed for piercing. There is a degree of belly here to allow for some slash cutting. The ergonomics are, for my hand, excellent. I usually wear a large size glove, and the knife just in hand, it just feels excellent. All of these edges, as you can see, are kind of radiused to a degree. There are really no hot spots as far as, you know, you wouldn't want to bushcraft with this, but as far as folding knives with this pillar type construction go, it's kind of as good as it's going to get. Onto the downsides of the knife. Like I said, the tip up only kind of bothered me, and I don't know if you can make this out, but one of the not screws, but there's actually a small sort of like a Chicago screw female end that fits inside this scale. It fell out of its own volition. Not a big deal for me because I actually, in order to carry this thing with confidence, I actually had to manufacture a small Kydex belt sheath for it so that it kind of sat at an angle on my belt. And so, you know, the blade was completely secure. But, you know, even though I'm not using the clip for a $220 knife, that's not really acceptable. I'm sure if I sent it back to ZT, they would correct the problem for me. But, you know, it's not a problem for me, and I am going to be keeping the knife. Blade centering, as you can see, is excellent. But, you know, the weight's excellent. The blade steel is excellent. It did sharpen and take a very fine edge without a lot of effort. I would say that this is my first experience with S35VN steel. I'm not an expert, but the blade does, I don't know if that's coming through on the microphone or not, but it's almost silent cutting. And see if I can do the curly Q thing here. Maybe not. But you can do some very fine cutting with some S cuts. You can change direction effortlessly. The blade took just a sick edge. The length is great. Everything about the knife except for the little doohickey falling out and the tip orientation limitations. Really the only downsides I found. As far as a size comparison, to give you a sense of scale, here's a Spyderco Delica, Spyderco Endura, and a Spyderco Military. What it came down to for me was I wanted an American blade that could be used in a self-defense role. So it was kind of really coming down to these two blades. The jury's still out on the military, but I will say that, you know, even though this blade is just, you know, world renowned for its action, I would say that the military is probably maybe a little bit underrated for how smooth it is. That is not my preferred method of deployment, but for on-screen purposes, I just want to demonstrate the smoothness of the Spyderco. This is not a Spyderco review, however, and I'll get back to the Sienkiewicz here. So this particular blade, although it is one of the most gorgeous folding knives I've ever seen, and you know, it has, you know, movie star or rock star good looks, I really don't think this is going to make the cut as far as replacing my tactical carry blade, my self-defense blade needs. I'm just really not fond of the deployment method. I know a lot of people are going to be shocked at that, but I just don't have a lot of faith in my ability to use a fine motor skill to deploy the knife under stress, under duress, or God forbid under attack. So since, you know, this is not an EDC blade, it would not be great as an EDC blade because of the blade length and other concerns. It is a tactical / self-defense blade, and this this really is just not enough surface for under stress work. The other downside to deployment is, as you can see, here's the integral lock, and the integral lock here is great if you're right-handed. If for some reason you should have to deploy this thing under stress, if you are left-handed or if your right hand is disabled for some reason unexpectedly, if your thumb is resting on the integral lock and you try to deploy it, it will eventually go, but that's not the kind of deployment that you want when you're under stress. Now, you know, you go back to right-handed use, and the detent on the integral lock is absolutely perfectly weighted to give it, you know, enough stick to where it's not going to shake out of the knife or open in your pocket inadvertently. At least probably not, it won't. And it really gives it a great deployment. But if you go to left-handed deployment under stress, are you going to remember, oh wait, my thumb's on the lock bar, I need to move it over to the right while I'm under duress, under imminent fear of great bodily harm or death? Are you going to remember where your thumb needs to be on this thing? So, in spite of the fact that it has the ability to put the clip on both sides, I don't consider it an ambidextrous knife. I think that is probably the ultimate reason why this didn't make the cut. Sorry, puns keep coming, and they're really unintentional, I assure you. But that's why it did not replace the Tatanka, and that's why it's not still in contention like the Spyderco Military is. And that's a shame, because this thing is so beautiful. I just love the looks of this thing so much. But it's just, you know, it's glamorous. It is super cool. And, you know, it wants to party like a rock star. But the thing is, it's, to my way of thinking, not a practical self-defense tool if you're planning to be able to deploy it with either hand under stress. So it's going to stay in the collection simply because it's so gorgeous and beautiful, and because I like that S35V in steel. But it's not going to be replacing anything in my carry rotation. So anyway, thanks for coming by to take a look at this blade, and we'll see you in the next video.